Okay, this project seeks to examine the way in which adults learn differently from non-adults and the implications for teaching methods. There's 6 main questions, and the first question: could you give a bit of brief background to yourself in terms of your learning and teaching experiences?
Okay, well, after leaving secondary school, I actually completed my A-levels as an adult learner at the age of 18 at night school for 3 nights a week whilst working full-time. Then I went to university where I studied a degree for 3 years. I then worked teaching adults for the City Council in Leeds, basic ICT skills, literacy skills and sort of communication skills to help people get jobs. And then I moved into teaching. I completed a teacher training course through Bradford University, and then I've been in teaching ever since.
Excellent. And what is your definition of an adult learner?
I suppose my definition of an adult learner is somebody who doesn't have to be in compulsory education, so somebody who is opting to continue to learn.
And what do you believe to be the motivation for adults pursuing learning?
I suppose there's different motivations for adults, different types of learning. One motivation could be in order to successfully move up the ladder in their career. It may be something they have to do, such as health and safety as part of their job. It may be to better themselves. Many people who go to night school complete A-levels to better themselves just out of a general interest in a subject, or of course then you can go further as regards doctorates and masters where people are specialising in a specific subject.
Sort of drawing from your experiences then as being somebody who's taught both compulsory and non-compulsory or adult and non-adult learning, do you believe that the distinction between compulsory and non-compulsory education in the UK has implications for how students learn?
Yeah, I do believe that. I think it's incredibly important that within adult education, styles of teaching and learning are still varied enough to keep people interested. Although people are there out of an optional way, out of their own choice, it still doesn't mean that the teaching and learning styles can just be less effective as regards somebody standing at the front of a classroom and just regurgitating information for people to learn. My opinion is in secondary school teaching, I'm sure it's the same in primary, there's a lot of pressure on us to be aware of the different learning styles of the people that are put in front of us, whether it's kinesthetic or etc. So we're left in a situation where we have to be really aware of that, and therefore the variety in our teaching is scrutinised at all times, whether that be the way we use technology in the classroom, how students access information, and how we monitor their progress is a particular thing that we look at the moment, and I'm not sure that's done as well in adult education as it is in compulsory secondary education.
In that sense, do you think that adults are stimulated differently to how children, for example, might be stimulated in terms of their learning?
I think we've all had different stimulations for learning, but I think there's going to be a lot of crossover between somebody who's 14 and 15 and an adult. I found myself in many conferences or training courses where, even as a teacher, where other teachers are putting these training courses on, and after 35-40 minutes of just sitting still and listening to somebody, really makes me think, well, this is how my students feel. Hopefully not in my classroom, but in across the school, if they're sitting there for that amount of time, just taking in information all the time. I found myself becoming fidgety and bored, and writing things down and nudging the person I was with and having fun because of that level of boredom. And I don't think that ever stops in an adult learner. I think we know where to draw the line and we have a bit more respect. But I still think it's really important, like I say, that this variety in the teaching and the information is put across, the information is disseminated in a way which is appropriate for the audience.
So do you think your experiences as an adult learner yourself has affected the way you actually teach adults now when you're actually teaching?
Yeah, I think so. You teach a lot of sixth formers who that would be classed as adult learners. What the sixth form do particularly like is to be able to be independent in their learning, and they can be trusted more to be independent in their learning. So therefore, giving them some information at the start, but then setting them up with either a website or something they can use then independently seems to be their preferred way of working. They're doing a lot of subjects, they're still doing 3 or 4 subjects, there's a lot of information to take in. So I think, it is important that you set them up in the right way, but it does change from the way I teach students in the lower school.
And question 5. Do you believe, sort of leading on from that, do you believe that adults in non-compulsory education learn differently to non-adults in compulsory education? If so, why, and what are the implications for teaching methods?
Yeah, I suppose the big difference is in compulsory education is that obviously there's a huge amount of people. I have classes of 32, 33 people of incredible mixed ability. So that is very different to adult learning, and a lot of those people, of course, that I'm teaching don't necessarily want to be there really. They know they're going through a process, it's a means to an end for them, rather than the process itself being an enjoyable part of their learning. I think with adult learners it's more about kind of lifelong learning really, and being involved with education in a different way. I think I went back to do my A-levels at 18, and at that point I was interested enough to actually listen and be involved in them. And hopefully that's the case with most people who go back into education. I think one of the problem lies in the question that you're talking about with people who go on from A-levels to do degrees, where the teaching completely changes and it becomes one of a lecture and then seminars, quite often where the lecturer will withhold information, try and tease information out of people and take that higher ground almost in a condescending way. I think some people who go to university, particularly from a normal secondary modern school, struggle a little bit with that, as they've been almost spoon-fed a little bit through their compulsory education.
So do you feel that life experience has a large impact upon how people learn or prefer to learn when they go back into education?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest things about going to university, of course, is that you start to change the way you look at the world, not just because of the people that are lecturing you, but the people who you spend time with. I think when I went, the dean of the university said something along the lines of "Don't let your education get in the way of your education," and now I can see what he means by that, because the people that you meet and the way they learn and the things they're interested in become part of you as well.
Excellent. And the final question: what obstacles and challenges do you think adults face in learning, and do you think that these are unique to adults?
Absolutely not. I think the same obstacles apply to adults as regards problems with literacy, as regards problems with confidence, as regards problems with retaining knowledge, being able to regurgitate knowledge in the right format, as regards writing styles. I think all those problems that apply to people who are 13, 14, 15 can apply all the way through your life, and I know that I still have problems with some of those things now. It's something that we all work at.
What about anything such as financials, as in terms of having to pay for your own education, or expectations in returning in education?
Yeah, of course, there's the financial implications that you've got to think about what you're spending your money on, and also time as well, because as an adult learner, if you're going from a full day's work to then maybe night school, or it's an add-on to your life, rather than where you're sort of sixth form or compulsory secondary education. It is part of your everyday life, it's part of your routine. I think the lack of routine as well with adult education maybe causes people problems. There's the level of independence that's expected of them. It's really, really difficult if you're bringing up a family and you're expected to write an essay when you go home and you've got 2 children in the house. I can imagine that's a really, really difficult process.
That's great. And finally, is there anything that you want to add which you feel we haven't covered?
No, I think that's fine.
Fabulous. Thank you very much.